How to downsize. First, let's have another swig of coffee so we can upsize a bit more. When is it too much? Well, is it too much when you can't walk from one end of the house to the other without stubbing your toe on? How many Victorian era sewing cabinets do I need? I've got 2. Do I need 3? One's an Empire style, which is quite lovely. The other one is some other style, which is also quite lovely. And I may have a third kicking around somewhere. But it takes up, depending on which one, it takes up a big chunk of space. Okay, Friedrich is going to join me now, and he and I are both Hoarders Anonymous. So we will try to imagine how we might do this. I'm sure we each have particular imagined, how do I turn, oh, God damn it. I get back, there we go. We might imagine how we could do it. Whether we can actually follow through, I don't know. But we'll keep it aimed toward pens. But let me just tell you, I have 2 cartons of milk in the refrigerator that I'm sure have passed their expiration date. What the hell am I waiting for? I'm just hyperventilating, just thinking about it. Not throwing them out. I'm not hyperventilating about that particularly, but I'm more hyperventilating thinking, why can't I just learn to get rid of them in the first place? Hello, Kesh. I'm waiting for Friedrich to join me, and we have a particular topic we're going to try to discuss, which is how to decide to get rid of pens. So are you going to join me live, Friedrich? You have to, oh, sorry, I didn't send you the link. There you go. And this thing is shaking because I've got my whole table shakes. Bump, 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 bump. But I have to illustrate this with my particular problem is this. I'll explain it to you. Here's this is the cap you want, so I have to put that there so I don't forget. I could put it with the parts you. Anyway. There you are, Friedrich. You're showing your pretty face.
It's been a while. Yeah.
It's been a while. So your face is still pretty though. Grayer hair.
Why? Thank you.
Gray hair.
That never stops for some reason. Yeah.
No, that only gets worse.
Yeah.
In our morning voice, we both haven't spoken out loud yet, so we've got our Tallulah Bankhead voice going for us.
Yeah. It takes a while to warm up. Yeah.
or when it's really bad, it's the lurch from Mrs. Adams. From the Addams Family show. You rang, Mrs. Adams.
Yeah.
I can do that really well. So I just want to talk a little bit about the difficulty of downsizing for me, and you can talk about. We'll share our. We'll help. We'll enable each other into doing
Yes.
nothing. How about that? Is that how we should do it? Because it's
It,
always easy doing
it'll
nothing.
be very honest. Yes, yes, yes. I downsized once in my career collecting, and that has put the fear of God into me of ever doing it again. So, yeah, yeah.
You sold all the rare pens real cheap because you needed to downsize fast, or what?
Basically, I got really irritated over the fact that I got tired of
Talking to pen
uh,
people.
a few people in our community, one of which happens to be a physician, um,
Okay.
that you're quite familiar with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Because
swore I
because
was
there was
done.
because there was a with every discussion about a fountain pen, you had to hear a political ad. Is that how it was?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, and a
I
straw man argument. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
and
you'll
so I got very irritated at
yeah.
the time, and I was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm done with this. So I sold all my shit very inexpensively. I mean, I got what I paid for it for the most part.
Yeah.
Some things I took a loss on. Some things I surprised me. I got more than I paid for it
Okay.
because I had learned how to repair things by then.
Yeah.
And, back when we first started, people only wanted eyedroppers and early shit because the other stuff couldn't be repaired.
Yeah.
So people weren't interested in that. And by the time I sold stuff, people were like, oh, this other stuff could be repaired. The market had went up.
Yeah.
So I made
I'm
decent,
I, I'm
you
a little
know.
confused. I'm a little confused though. This physician who will remain nameless. It seems like, when did you sell all your stuff? 12 years ago?
Uh,
8 years ago? When?
no, this was about 20 years ago.
Okay, so there was you had to listen to him then. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what was what was who was president back then? Obama, I suppose.
No. It was the end of the Bush era, the first
I
Bush.
was okay. So this was way long. This is
Yeah, yeah,
ancient
yeah,
history. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sorry that.
But it was still bad enough. Like I said, it was still, you had to hear about this treasure hoard and that treasure hoard and
Oh,
who he screwed it over to get that treasure hoard, and then of
I
course that always rolled into some political debate.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Or some argument about some sucker using some collecting grade pen. How dare people use pens and
I
not
see.
collect them?
So it would be something like, I was on my way to vote for Bush when I screwed an old lady out of her Parker Black Giant for, she wanted $10. I told her I'd give her five. That
Yes,
sort of thing.
yes,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. And
Okay.
and of course he always had 3 or 4 sidekick minions. Some of which have authored books and various other things. Not to name names. But
Okay.
some of them are
Well,
nice guys, and you wonder why they hang around each other.
no.
Because some are nice and some don't make sense. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but it is just what it is.
Well,
I sold all my shit.
pen collecting does make strange bedfellows, and
Yeah.
uh, if someone, regardless of their political beliefs, has a pen you want, you be nice to them, as much as you're biting your tongue off, but you still want that pen. So you
Pretty much so.
um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. And there's
well,
still, of course, quite a few in our hobby that share some pretty strange political beliefs in comparison to what I would consider fairly standard ones. So
yes.
I just nod my head and say hi and move along. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I sold everything off, and of course, when I later on, I had bumped into Susie, and she's like, "Oh, well, you things change. You should get back into it." And of course, what did I do? I got back into it,
Yeah.
and then I noticed how much shit had changed price wise, or,
Yes.
or rarity wise, and I was like, "Well, this was easy to find before, or that was easy to find
Yeah.
before," and that really changed my mind on ever parting with stuff. And that's also when I really had to make the decision of, you have to focus. You can't just buy everything like you used to. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a candy store anymore where everything can be found easy or bought inexpensively, or you can find that shoebox full of pens at the pen show, and you could go through and go, well, here's $100 for these bundle of 20 pens, and
Yeah.
go home and fix those days are over.
Yeah.
um you know
They are
uh
over. I tell myself that if I see a pen at a show and I like it, if I come back later to look at it again, it's not there to look at again because someone else bought it. So you have to strike while the iron is hot. And I should have done that with a dip pen at the last show. And the last thing I needed is another dip pen to turn into a Franken pen because that that job of doing calligraphy has gone away. So I don't know why I need this other pen. But anyway, downsizing for me, the biggest problem at this point is I have uh, triplicates and quintuplicates and septuplicate, whatever the octuplicates of the same pen. So I could easily get rid of one or two, if not three or four, Waterman 12s, for example, because I've got a couple of dozen of them, right? So
technically,
how do I
right.
decide which one to go? They're all
Well,
my
that's
children.
the problem.
Mm.
Technically you have that many, but I'm sure even if you laid them all out, each one of them probably has a different nib.
Well, that's another thing I'll get to in a second. And the nibs that are in a lot of these pens are not necessarily the correct ones, um, because I don't care whether they're from New York or not, or
Right.
or whatever. They're not. They're not. I'm not that much of a purist. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes to pens, I can, like this Greg pen here. I mean, this is probably three pens in one. This long one wouldn't have this short clip, right? Or would it?
uh Sometimes Wall's really bad on using up parts, so
Yeah,
you can't find things like that.
yeah,
That's the problem. And the
yeah. Okay.
more the more Wall was doing bad financially, the more they Frankenpen shit together.
Their own stuff. Yeah. Well, this
Yeah,
also has a beautiful Skyline era nib, and it's a Greg pen, so it should probably have a Greg
yeah,
nib.
that should have a Greg nib. Yeah,
So, but I love this nib. It's prickly fine, and so I'm probably going to keep it. But anyway, let me go back to.
oh man,
Let's
that's
pretend
nice.
for a second that all of the pens that I have had were otherwise equal and correct. Um, as you know from our experience with pen nibs, no two number two Waterman pen nibs made in the same month by Waterman would be the same. And
No,
there's and I have such um, I'm so democratic, small d, or Catholic, small c, rather, is what I mean.
right.
Catholic, small c, with nibs. I love almost every kind. It could be fine firm, fine flex, broad flex, stub, all the kinds of nibs I can kind of fall in love with. The only ones that I am happily happy to say goodbye to are sort of the Schaefer lifetime nail in the wall kind of things. But even
The,
then,
the true blobby one note Schaefer's, yeah.
I feel that I could probably find some reason to like them. So anyway, the reason that here's my problem with downsizing. If I only wanted pens that were in mint condition, I'd I wouldn't have any pens.
Yeah,
There would be no pens in my collection. Uh, uh, I like pens that have engraving. I
right.
don't mind pens that are a little worn. I don't mind pens that are a little discolored. They're all pens in Pen God's eyes. They're all made in my image. I'm not. I have brassing and discoloration too. Let me tell you. So so
We all,
we all do. So I like I I I I I'm very happy keeping those kinds of pens. Um, so if I see in my collection I have two identical pens, and I think, okay, I hardly ever use this, like a little streamline 1939 or whatever it was, 41 Schaefer striped uh, feather touch pen. Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and probably if I lost both of them that I have, I could go to a pen show and probably find one
Yeah,
without too
yeah.
much difficulty. But one of them had a name on it that I didn't really like. When the names are sort of stamped in with heat, and they have
Yeah,
that
heat,
contrasting gold color
that
that's
gold,
like
that gold
you know,
foil heat. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they look crappy to me. I don't mind when they're heat stamped without the gold, but the gold just makes it look so cheap. Anyway, I tried both of those pens. There's probably a video of me on my channel where I'm using those very two pens, and one of them had a nice nib. So I thought, well, I'll keep the one with the name, or without. I don't remember whether I wanted the one with the name in that case or not. But I tried to take the nib I liked better, put it in the pen that I wanted to keep, so I'd have this other pen. And somehow the nibs didn't fit, and you know, it
Of
just
course. Yeah.
it didn't it wasn't easy to do. So I ended up keeping them both still. But a problem I have, Friedrich, is, let's say I want to find a particular pen. Let's say it's a Skyline. Let's say it's a Skyline like this. This is the cap you're getting, by the way. So it could be in any of these particular places. It could be on my drawing desk. That's over here. That's the easy place to look at, because I know those pens pretty well, and I could find out whether it's there or not in about a minute. 1 minute. Then
Run.
over here in my collection, it could be with the Skylines in this drawer, and that will take maybe 3 minutes to, well, or not, maybe depends. I'll say 2 minutes to
We'll
find
call
it there. It could also be right here in this cabinet that has pen sets, and it could be there, and that'll take a while to find it. And then the thing that'll take the longest to find is in the pen boxes. So I have to take this box, open it up. Oh, okay, there it is. Now, what size is this? Is this the standard size or the mini size? And then I have to measure it with the other one. And then, or we're still not done.
No,
So three,
because then
four, it could
there's
be over
then
here
the
in my sample drawer, which is, I have a little case that has a drawer for each, 13 drawers, and it has about 20 pens in each drawer, and it's sort of a microcosm of my pen collection. So there'll
right.
be a drawer just full of personalized pens, and they'll, engravings or names or inscriptions or whatever, which is what I like to show people. I said, well, I like these,
Right.
and here's some samples. And then I've got sets. And then, so it could be in any one of these. There could be a drawer that has names. It could be a drawer that has sets. It could be a drawer that has
Trauma. Yeah.
some other thing. So, and then
Right.
if I finally get them all together, then I have the problem of which one to say goodbye to. And then I start weeping. I remember you were, I bought you from Frank Dubiel. I don't remember any of that shit. But
Right.
I can't say goodbye. So then I just put them all back and have another beer. go and drink a beer.
Or what happens is it ends up in the fifth pile of maybe, or to be repaired, or to be sorted, and then it stays in that pile. You play
that's
with
right.
it.
There's
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
pile. There's the big the
Back.
stock of the stock of
Right.
parts is here. The pens that are in a cup on my desk is where it could be in my fucking
Right.
shirt pocket. It could be over here by
Right.
the couch. So it could be all these different places.
Yeah.
So one of the things I probably need to do is, God, this sounds so awful, so boring. Catalog my pens. No, I don't want to do that. I don't have enough time on the planet to, left to me. If I was 18 years old and I knew I would live to be 98, I wouldn't have enough time. So,
Right.
and,
Right.
the hourglass, I'm at the point where it's this downhill slope. It's right. It's like this. And then the world, whether I'm going to die first or the world will die, we're neck and neck. Let me tell
Yeah.
you.
There's only so much sand left in the hourglass. Yeah.
In both hourglasses. And, so it's just, it's traumatic. Now, if I was just a regular collector, I'd pick the one that was nicest, and then I'd have one skyline in black. Right? That would be it.
And then blue, and then et cetera, et cetera.
And then with the two different kind of caps and the whatever. Right. And I think I had this discussion with you about what is the fewest number of, let's say, Parker Duofolds, or let's say Skylines, since we're talking about that. What's the fewest number of Skylines you need to be able to show someone with a little tiny bit of imagination how many different Skylines there were? Meaning I could show this pen to the person I'm talking to, and I said, this came in all the different colors it came in. Right?
Right. Well, we're at least talking, if we're talking the basic colors and not the
moire. Well, that's a separate thing. We have to get to there. And
yeah.
So, but you can say, for example,
6 colors.
This pen came in the two sizes, the two standard sizes. I don't think this ever came in executive, but it came in the two standard sizes, and it had 6 colors: black, brown, gray, burgundy,
black,
blue, green.
Burgundy, blue, green,
brown.
Yeah, brown. Yeah.
I don't know how many that is, but so
brown.
You don't need, you could show, let's say, a black one of these and say that it came in all the colors. You could show a green one of these so you could see what the two colors were. So already we've gotten rid of a bunch of different ones. And then you have, so how many gold fill caps you had? You had smooth gold fill, I think.
Smooth.
You had the vertical and the horizontal stripes.
No, barleycorn.
Oh, the barleycorn, yeah, or
And then there's one where it's mixed, where it's the stripe, where you get the half stripe, and then it skips to the right, and then there's 3 little barleycorns, and then it skips, and then there's the stripe, then 3 little barleycorns.
Why don't I have that one?
I don't either. It's one of them weird fucking catalog ones. It's just like the one new cap you just got that they made for like 6 or 8 months.
With the little
And it
gold
was
band
on, yeah, it was
extra.
just on the black, and for a long time everybody thought it was just on the executive model.
Yeah. Well, it was fun because Mike Daigle didn't know that existed.
Did you have to go to Sid? And Sid was like, "Oh, this is, you know."
I went to John Veely, who wrote the brand new book about Eversharp, and I told him, I said, "Do you have the rarest fourth size of Skyline?" He didn't know that existed, and I could see him saying, "God, fuck! I just wrote this fucking book."
Fucking book, yeah. Now here comes along here another asshole here comes along and is gonna wreck my fucking book. Yeah, yeah. People like you and me are the banes of existence of these book wreckers, because they swear they've done all this research, and then we pull something out of our ass, and then they go, "Son of a bitch! Now I got to make an addendum."
Is that where you keep your Demi Skyline in your ass?
That's right. That's right. What do you mean? There's a Demi version of that? Here you go.
But anyway, that would be.
That can't be possible. Look, the cap doesn't fit. It's a completely different pen. Yeah.
It's a completely different pen. It just didn't shrink. It's a completely different pen. So the it would be interesting to spend a minute or 2 or 3 and figure out how many what would be the most number of pens that Skyline made, where you had every model, every cap style, every size, and see what that is. And
4
it might
sizes, 6 basic colors, and you got
it might
5
be
more.
150 types
At least.
And especially if you add that weird cap that I didn't know existed.
Right. Then plus the different bands, bandless, 1 band, 2 bands, wide band.
That band. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I think the idea of having the fewest number makes more sense, because I'll never have the biggest number. I don't think anyone would. I think that there's probably some rare, like cap you described, or that little pen that I have, that no one will get,
Well, it's like right now I have 129, I think, or 131 gray Parker 51s, and I still don't have all the variations.
Oh dear.
Because Brazil.
Oh, I don't count Brazil and Argentina.
Brazil, Argentina, UK, and Canada made a completely different color gray.
I see. Well, I'll stick. Not that I'm a jingoist or anything, but I'll stick with what they made here in Janesville, Wisconsin. I
did luck out though, and was able to pick up 2 vacuumatics that were made in navy gray, which
is not the same color gray as the other pens were. Dove gray.
No, correct. They were made after the switch over. They're marked. They're made in the Parker factory. They ran out of the Dove gray. It was right after the switch over, so they're a little bit rarer. So I was happy to get those.
Well, I might even have. Who knows? I mean, the dye lot or whatever it is in those pens, the browns, the blues, the greens, the yellows, there was, the recipe changed.
It's just like the Yellowstone. The first year Yellowstone is very yellow. and then it changed.
Yeah.
It's much darker.
So I told Steve Widerlight that the it was not mustard. It's called Yellowstone, and he said, "What are you talking about?" So I looked it up on my phone, and so sometimes you can even teach old people, and he's probably seen more pens
Then the
cross
both of
his
us.
hand
Yeah,
than 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 the top 5 collectors put together that came through his. Now, whether he
easily.
remembers any of it is
Yeah,
another
probably.
story, but
Yeah.
I mean, um, oh,
Well,
and I
there's
fixed it.
we find that a lot though in the collecting community. There's a lot of misnomers or names or things that just they perpetuate over the years, whether they're correct. You know,
Atomic E Elf 1 said, "How many pens can a pen maker make if a pen maker could make pens?" Well, that's I would think any number.
yes,
Pick a number. Uh,
depends
whether
on
they
the
can
skill. Yeah.
whether they could make an infinite number, I don't know. But so anyway, I do feel I need to downsize, especially for those pens that um, I don't use that much. I don't use Waterman 12s that much. So I don't need a dozen or 2 dozen. I need maybe 6. That would be really hard to decide what 6. Um, Skylines, I think I'm happy to keep all of them that I've got because I've always loved Skylines and I always will, and uh, I just think they're great. I
Well,
like the
and
design.
it's the market too. Skylines are harder, believe it or not, unless it's a niche thing like artists or things like that, because you can, or left-handers. Skylines are easier to move for those people because of the nibs that are usually on it.
Yeah,
But with the market, people just want Watermans, and
yeah,
they'll pay for it out the rear
yeah,
end. But if you're trying to move a Schaefer, you're trying to move a Skyline, people don't want them.
yeah.
Even if they have a
Generally
good
not.
nib, you know,
No.
that's what kills me. You could have a Schaefer with a number 3 self-filler nib on there. That's a
Yeah.
really good nib because Schaefer didn't make the damn nib. That's why it's a good nib. And
And Todd
people will
Merrill will
just
want
walk right past.
it. Todd
Yeah,
Merrill
yeah,
will buy it, and
yeah,
so will I. I mean, I like Schaefer
yeah.
nibs too. Uh,
Well, I do, but I like the early ones, and generally, does it, most of them are not made by Schaefer. They were mostly contracted out by a lot of the Chicago nib manufacturers that made Victorian dip nibs. It isn't
okay.
until Schaefer started making their own nibs under their lifetime nib process when they truly made their nibs in house
Yeah.
that that's why their nibs were so stiff and all that they stopped contracting their nibs out, and
Yeah.
that's when they lost their flexibility.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Well, I do have some Schaefer flexible nibs. It's, someone must have stayed on
Oh yeah,
or learned how
yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
And when they went to their feather touch nibs, the feather touch nibs are some of the finest, most smooth, and slightly flexible. They're sort of like if an accountant, a Waterman accountant, and a pink nib had a baby, that's
Yes,
sort of what they would be like. And
yeah,
um, it might have a little bit more of the accountant gene in it because it's not very flexible, but they are so pleasant to write with. They are just, and to draw with, they are just amazing. So,
and out of all the manufacturers, when Schaefer made an extra fine, they made an extra fine.
Yeah,
There won't be another vendor that gets finer in the period than Schaefer.
yeah.
And I got to give it to them for that. And even up into the 70s, when they made an extra fine, they made an extra fine. When they made an accountant nib or a needle point
Yeah.
for Schaefer, it was microscopic. They were
Yeah.
really good about that.
They were they learned how to split the atom of iridium before
Yes.
before Rutherford did, or whoever it was making
Yeah.
the atomic
Yeah.
bomb.
Yeah.
Let me change the subject for a little bit. I was talking to Mr. M.G. Ward,
Yeah, he's a calligrapher, correct? From
calligrapher and tap dancer
Seattle or something up in that area, Pacific Northwest.
In Canada. Yeah, he's from Canada.
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Okay.
And he teaches this seminar about calligraphy, copperplate, Spencerian, or whatever the hell it is, Spencerian. And I thought it would really be fun for me to hook up with him and do a good cop, bad cop routine where, he teaches people to make a particular beautiful A or whatever it is, and then take your turn, and then I'll try something entirely different to switch gears. But I'm thinking I might want to be my own star rather than good cop, bad cop. It'll just be the bad cop. But it comes from my experience of writing with different handwriting in the movie business and the ads that I have to do lettering for.
Yeah.
And MG Ward is teaching people to write in a different handwriting or different script or whatever you want to call it, make letters differently than you make them. And I would do the same thing. I'd have the class or the group make different things too. And I'd supply the pens. Each table, let's say, of 4 or 5 people would have 4 or 5 different pens. Different pen nibs would be on each one of them. And I would give them, I would say, I'd start off with some sort of thing. Do you believe in handwriting analysis? I'd start with that idea. And I don't know anything about it, but is someone that writes with really, really fine, tiny little handwriting, are they greedy or are they stingy? Do they want to keep all their ink, or stingy, or what is it? Why do they want to write so small? Are they shy or what? People that write really big, are they egotistical like our present president, where he has to use the biggest Sharpie in the fucking plant to sign his documentation, his illegal laws, or is it because he doesn't know how to hold a pen, so he has to use the Sharpie? I don't know what the thing. You'd think he'd want to have a very he'd want to he'd buy a Schaefer golf pen from us so his hands would look bigger.
Right. So hands look normal size, but no.
No, he wants the biggest pen. So anyway, I thought it would be fun to come up with maybe 6 different personalities. The anarchist who's writing a letter to the London Times about blowing up, the Houses of Parliament, and this is your last warning. How would he write? What sort of writing would he have? And I think it would be sort of fun to get people to move their hand in different ways and think in different ways how to do something. And then another one would be, the spinster aunt, your mother's spinster aunt who lived in the big house on the hill in the small town. What sort of lettering would she use to invite her lady friends over for bridge? What would that be like. I think that would be a really fun,
or
entertaining.
the flowing love letter type of thing.
The
Yeah,
go,
yeah, yeah,
yes, the mushy, the bon vivant, the Beau Brummel type who,
yeah.
who, and then I might come up with sample sentences. My dear, de- my darling, dearest one. Okay, dot dot dot. You fill in the rest. We'll
Right,
start.
right.
We'll start it. But I think it would be really fun to see people, and then have people try out the different pens with each other. Now write the same sentence but using the finer nib. How is that?
Right.
How will that work? And I think that sounds like it would really be a lot of fun. So maybe I'll pitch
Yeah.
it myself.
Can you make that, that anarchist just as angry with that extra fine tip
Yes,
pen
I'm afraid
as
they'd
you
break it.
as at italic nib? I
Yeah,
mean, can you do it? Can you make him just as loud? Is it just a matter of, you know, changing the angle of your writing and making it a very up and down compressed, or
yeah.
it,
The
or,
Donald Trump, houses of Parliament will, rather
right,
than your houses of Parliament, houses of Parliament will turn into ashes, or whatever.
right.
I think it's
I,
really, really fun. I think it sounds
I,
like a fun way to do it.
well, not that Ward's class isn't great. It's great, but it teaches them to color in between the lines of something very structured. It's rote teaching,
Yeah.
which is
In
important for calligraphy. But
Yeah.
I like what you're bringing for the approach, because you need that. You need to learn how to think outside the box too. You want them to be able to bring their own style to
Yeah.
enjoying their own handwriting,
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. So, yeah.
And the other thing is, I mean,
And
I,
that's
I
the art.
might I might also say, now that we've had fun, here's a way I think where you could, you know, you don't have to become an anarchist because you liked the way that wrote, like the way you wrote
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Looks at you don't have to blow up anything, but
Right.
you learned that your handwriting looked really kind of neat that way. And so how do you now go back to your handwriting, and how do you, well, you write more vertically, or you write twice as big, or you do something. So
Right.
I would also include, this is what I do with people that are trying to learn how to write with a fountain pen, because they get a brand new fountain pen, they hold it like they hold their Bic pen. I have to teach them that you've got a, a gas pedal on your pen. You can
Right.
go 10 miles an hour, you could go 110. And then so they understand that, but I also say, well, write twice as big as you're doing now. So you end up having to move your arm because your fingers aren't long enough, to get to the
Go.
top of the letter. So that's another way where you can give them exercises where they do end up using more than just their fingers. And
Right.
so uh, all of
Or
that,
changing speed gives them a thinner line, which a lot of them can't figure that,
yeah,
because that changes the flow.
yeah,
If you're going to sit longer on the page, more ink's going to pool on that absorbent paper. So you
yeah.
move that quicker, you're going to get a finer line. Um, yeah, yeah.
Atomic Elf,
I
Atomic Elf just added, he never thought he would own a pen with an extra fine nib, but a vintage Pilot Elite was available at a really good price, and it's one of his favorites. So he's learned uh, that uh, this thing that he thought he didn't like. It's sort of the green eggs and ham. I don't like it here. I don't like it there. I don't like it anywhere. That was what a Parker 51 was for me for years. I didn't like them. I didn't like them. I didn't like it. I love them. I just had to learn the reason that they exist, and it's not to do
I
calligraphy. So
no, same way. I like them because when I picked the 51 up, I don't have to think. It works. I
No, it
can write.
allows, in my case, it allows you to think. It allows me to focus on the word I'm trying to come up with. I don't have to decide, oh, I'm going to write. I can't wait till I have,
Well,
I
play when I
used to,
either.
I, I used to say that I love writing adjectives because ending the word with ly is always fun. So can I make a sentence that's only has adjectives? Uh,
Right.
uh, Atomic, would you like to join us? And we'll have a menage a trois here. One of the nice things I find with a fine nib is being able to just write for some time without thinking about turning the page or ink drying. See, that's another thing that's great about being using a fine nib. You've got that 1 ounce of ink in there will last you the rest of the month, probably.
Yeah, that's well, my mantra is always the finer the better. Um, I mean, to the point of needle point
Mhm.
level fine.
Well, I'll try to find a fine nib for the cap that you're getting. Um,
Oh no, that one you get loud. Like I said, you could have loud and sassy for that one, like
okay.
drunk
Well,
drag. You
I
know.
I don't I think I want to save the drunk drag queen nibs for the drawers, the ones that are
Oh,
really
okay. That's
wet. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, yeah. That's fine.
I there was
Then yeah,
one guy
you could.
at the pen show who wanted I let him try one of the skylines I had just bought from Steve Weiderlet, and it had a big moppy. Well, I think it was wetter than it needed to be. I don't, but anyway, he really wanted a wet broad nib, and I let him try that, and then I showed him the other ones that I had, and he really liked this wet one. And but he wasn't making use of the gas pedal. He had a heavy hand, so it was always going 40 rather than 20. And but he didn't take it up to 80. And I don't want to sell a pen that goes 80 miles an hour to someone who's just,
Going to
in the
do 40.
school that's in the school zone. I
Yeah,
want him I save those for artists. I save really fine flexible nibs, not for artists, but for calligraphers. Um, so broad, firm nibs, especially Schaefer, I'll save for the lefties. Not that there's that many
yeah,
of them I have in the customership, but I try to make sure the nib goes to the person who's going to use it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so anyway, that's how that's this seminar that's percolating in my head, and maybe it's something that you and I can do. Maybe I can get another person to do it together with us. Would you like to be a guinea pig on the on
Yeah, we
the
could do it. Yeah, no,
uh,
that'd be pretty cool. Yeah,
it might be, neat to have three people together, each that are willing to play this little game with me, and I'll come up with 4 or 5 different characters that we will try to imagine. Um, will write this line, because
yeah,
I think it sounds like it's going to be fun, and I think it's also will be instructive. You're able to
yeah,
see what your hand can do uh, with the pen, rather than
yeah.
following the directions and learning how to do one specific kind of calligraphy, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I wish I could learn to do it, but I think it's kind of more fun to put on the top hat, put on the tweed uh, cap that the Irish bomber would wear, on his
Yeah,
way to the
yeah.
Parliament to light the fuse. What kind of, what kind of veil the spinster would be wearing? I guess, do spinsters wear
While
veils?
clutching pearls.
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
clutching her pearls. Uh,
yeah.
so it might be fun to come up with beforehand. Maybe you and I can come up with the sentences. We can come up with sentences for these five personalities. We could even name them after the characters in Clue. You know, Professor Plum and
Yeah, yeah,
Colonel
yeah,
Mustard or something. That might be kind of
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Mrs. White, and I don't know if there's an anarchist in that game, but
Well,
we might have to come
and
up.
body. Yeah,
Uh, we know that there's a murderer in that game, so they all could be
yeah, yeah,
violent. But
yeah.
um, so anyway, this sounds like a lot of fun. I really like the idea. I would love to do something with MG Ward because he's such a character himself. I think he's
He's a
very
real nice
funny,
guy. Yeah,
but I think that he's I think wrenching the mindset from trying to make this beautiful stroke, and then me telling him to be crazy is not a good idea. I think people
no, yeah,
will go away unhappy
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
with both of us. Um, so I think maybe doing it uh, uh, on my own uh, with would be better. I once gave a talk to I met at a pen store opening. They hired or they invited me. They didn't hire me. I think they hired this uh, handwriting analysis lady to be there, but I was willing to do it for nothing. Uh, so we were there on opening day, and she was doing free handwriting analysis. And then I said, "Well, do mine." And I wrote something out, gave it to her, and I said, "Well, how did you get that?" And she said, she looked at me, and I was wearing a linen suit, and I had white uh, women's kid gloves in my pocket, and I was wearing a boater, and I was wearing a white linen tie, bow tie, and she sort of pointed to all of these things. She said, "That's what's I don't have to look at your handwriting to know you're some kind of nut." She figured it out by just looking at me. So, uh,
So much for her graphology skills. Yes.
so anyway, I gave uh, she invited me to give a lecture at the New England. Uh, there was this fancy uh, seminar or conference with the New England document examiners, and they're learning about ink and whether you can tell something is forged, and whether the ink is as old as it says it is. You do these tests with so there was chemists talking there. She was talking there about um, she might have been doing her shtick. That might have been part of it, or she might actually have expertise in something else. Anyway, I gave the pen portraits I did for the Boston Pen Show, where
Right.
I took
Yeah.
famous paintings. Actually, let me show you one that you'll get a kick out of. I described it to my 3/4 housemate, and he thought it was a great thing. So let me get it. First, I'll ask you. Anyway, I brought. Let me just finish the other story. So I had a slideshow, I guess, and no, I didn't. I just brought one painting, and it was a painting by John Singer Sargent, and it showed this adolescent, uh, well, or young adult male in a long top coat. He had a wing collar, and I don't know if he was wearing black tie or white tie, and had a walking stick, and he looked like it was his first day at Eton or something, or he was taking his first transatlantic voyage with daddy or whatever it
Yeah.
was. And I the pen was a 452 and a half LEC, and it had the name on it, Collins, something Collins. And I was talking about how pens, if you have a pen that's really thin, you're going to write a certain way, or you'll have this sort of personality. Or if you have a big fat pen with big fat, if you're a big fat, if you're a Jackie Gleason type, you're going to have a big fat pen with a big fat name engraved on
Big
it.
fat
So,
Latin. Yeah.
anyway, I said, eventually I said, well, I did some research and I found who owned this pen, and I unveiled the 6 foot tall portrait that I had done, and I think some of them laughed. I don't think they got me. I didn't think they understood one word I was saying. But what I did was I had a piece of paper with a pen clipped to it. I think all the pens had clips on them, and they were large pieces of paper, and I had everyone write their name with that pen, and then switch it, and then wrote their name with another pen and switch it. And so they all wrote with 20 different pens. And I think some of them got the idea eventually that you write very differently when you're using, or your personality changes a little bit when you're doing this. So
Right. Right.
it was a thought. Anyway, so the painting by Andrew Wyeth, the Christina's World. Do you know that painting?
Vaguely.
I'll find it for you so you have a sense, and the audience has a sense. Uh, and this is one of the pens. It's owned by Ernie Drown, Ernie and Beth, Ernie Drown and Beth Hilgartner right now, and Wyeth, Christina's World. I haven't looked at the original. So here's the painting.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah.
Okay, so, and it's this girl, Christina, is um uh I believe she the, she had polio or something, so she couldn't walk. She couldn't leave the house, right? That was
Correct.
her world.
Correct. Yeah.
So the world is, the farmhouse, the the the
Yeah.
outhouse, the barn, or
The
whatever. That's
Yeah.
all
It's
she
all.
had.
Yeah.
So 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 what pen would she become? What pen would her what would it be, do you think?
For a limited world. Hmm.
Or
Now,
could
see,
or
I would
couldn't or couldn't or couldn't leave the house. That's the hint.
couldn't leave the house. Well, it's a desk pen.
It's a desk pen, you're right. So here it is. There's the Mandarin yellow desk set. There's the there's
Be-
the
because
there's the
it could
Parker
crack.
socket.
Desk
And
pen.
there
Yes.
there's a a thumbtack, a push pin.
Right.
There's a rubber band. There's the inkwell, and here's the corner of the pen blotter. So it, I use the uh, the shape of the fields to mimic and there's the ruts in the road, the the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ruts in the road were the rubber
The rubber
band.
band.
So anyway, that was a fun thing. So
Now, see, I would have went a completely different direction. I would have used a Globe brand fountain pen.
I don't even know what that is. You'd make fun of her. She
It, it,
can't
it
leave. She can't
it's
leave.
a right. Yeah, it's a second tier pen from the 20s, made in
Oh,
Boston.
I
It's
might have one.
they were
Yeah. Come to think
yeah
of it.
they were Globe brand, yeah. But that's how, yeah, considering it's her world, yeah, I would have used a Globe brand pen.
So there.
But
So
that's because
so
I'm a sarcastic asshole. Yeah.
so what pen would I have used for the Mona Lisa? Most of the time, the nibs were the face, or were the head of the pen.
Okay. Mona Lisa. Hmm. Did you use 100-year nib for the Mona Lisa?
I did not. I used a. I'll tell you what pen I used. I used a Conklin pen, but why? And it was
Oh,
a
because
era
be,
Conklin pen.
because of the crescent,
Because of the later
rather.
ones, the later
Yeah.
ones had the Nozak era. They had it in
Yeah.
a big smiley face with big teeth. So
Yeah. The fake
that
crest. Yeah.
that was the Mona Lisa. Um, a Henry Moore sculpture was a Henry Moore sculpture with the holes in it was a demonstrator pen, a Waterman demonstrator.
Makes
Uh,
sense. Yeah.
and I drew it so it was a reclining figure. Here's the nose. I added these arms. They were sort of Mickey Mouse arms, and there were all these holes in the barrel, so you could see the rubber sack being depressed, and then the lever was sticking up like a big old erection. But
Well, we know here there's always got to be a little phallic symbolism in your artwork somewhere,
yeah,
and
we
that's good.
all, and what do? What do you and I do for fun? We collect 6-inch long
Yes,
cylindrical objects, right? So
that's right. Yes.
how, how difficult is it to figure that out?
We never grow up. We never
We,
grow up. We may get older, but we never grow up. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that was a really one of my favorite pictures that I did in that series. Glenn Bowen now owns, and it was the painting, um, the portrait of Elizabeth I by Holbein.
Okay. Okay.
Let me find it. Holbein. Oh, it's not by. There's another one by her, Elizabeth I portrait symbolism. Okay, it's this one. Who did this? Just a minute. Allow all cookies. Uh, who painted it? Uh, let me find it here. I'm sorry, images. Okay. Um, so anyway, what it is let me find it. Who painted it? Is it? Um, it doesn't tell me. God damn it! Don't go away, Mister. Um, Elizabeth.
Is that the one that Sir Francis Drake style one?
It's she's sitting on her throne, and behind her are two windows. And through one window, you see, God damn it, why can't I find it?
I think through one window you see the fleet.
You see the Spanish Armada
Yeah, yeah.
coming up and then being destroyed, I think. Anyway,
I
what pen
thought
would I have used? Well, yes, you see through one window you see the fleet, and the other window you see the routing of the fleet.
yeah.
And so what so here's the picture. What cap did I use for what pen did I use to stand in for Elizabeth? The first. The boat is the naval the nautical part of it is important in this painting, in this thing. Oh, come on, Friedrich.
Well,
It's too early in the morning maybe for you. You should know this
yeah.
immediately.
Well, you could use a swan cap with the
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 swan.
nautical theme.
Yeah,
The
I could,
nautical
but
theme.
okay.
Lower band.
Think of a pen that has the name Queen Elizabeth on it. Limited edition, Parker,
Oh, it's a Parker
75.
75. Yeah, Parker
75.
75. Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
here's the Parker 75 clip. So here's in this window is a picture of the Queen Elizabeth while it's sailing, across the ocean. I think maybe I have the famous image where the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary are crossing each other,
And the
within,
other side sunk in Hong Kong Harbor.
it's burning in Hong Kong Harbor. I had so much
That's
fun
excellent.
I had so much fun painting those pictures. I'd wake up every morning and I'd come up with what am I going to do? And some of them were easy, and some of them were a little, only I would understand it. One was Rodin's Thinker, and the sculpture the Thinker, and I had it be a dual-fold senior original size. And the thing that made that happen was Dobie Gillis. Remember the Dobie Gillis show? The
Yeah,
many
yeah.
lives of Dobie Gillis, the many loves of Dobie Gillis. He had a crew cut, so the knurled cap was sort of like him.
The yeah,
The
stood up like
shape and
the brush cut. Yeah.
yeah, and in his TV show, he would always start out the TV episode by standing in front of this sculpture, and he'd talk about what he learned today or what he's thinking about this
What?
episode.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
and that brain cell only exists in my head, but that's what I did. Another one that I used, a Parker was this huge painting. Again, it's 6 foot tall, 5 feet wide maybe, and I painted these on a window shade material. And
Yeah, like vinyl shade. Yeah,
vinyl shades. So and that one was Michelangelo's Pieta. And why did I choose that? I don't, well, what made me do that one? So here you have the Virgin Mary up here, and here's dead Christ, hanging, arm hanging down here.
Right.
So what I did there was I used the first year duofold junior, because he's the son of God, right?
Right.
What else did the first year duofold junior have on it? It had, I'm sorry for it's had a huge imprint, duofold junior.
Yeah.
Big
big
letters.
Yeah, big.
So
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
and what made me
Yes.
think of her, I mean, the sculpture for that is when Michelangelo brought the sculpture in had it delivered, I guess, to the basilica there, the cathedral, saying, this is what I did for your contest, or whatever the hell it was. They couldn't believe that this 17-year-old, or whatever he was at the time, could have sculpted this thing. So he snuck in late at night, and I have to show you this too. Pieta, Pieta. And in the dark of night, he on this band going between the Virgin Mary's boobs. You know what he did? Cription. What he did was, you know? I'm sorry.
No.
I know you don't know. What he did was he carved that night. He carved Michelangelo made this. So in Latin or Italian, he wrote Michelangelo's Bonoratus Florence. Michelangelo Buonarroti of Florence made this Faceba. So I wrote George Parker Faceba on the band.
Well, that's one way to prove your point, right?
Anyway, I had so much fun making those pens. The Bound Slave was a Conklin crescent because Michelangelo's Bound Slaves are bound, and so is a crescent, the donut.
Right, with the donut and all that. Yeah.
So it was really fun just coming up with, what pen is going to be this piece of art, or I'd start with the pen. This one, actually, you'll get a kick out of this one. So this one and a Fifth Avenue next to it was what famous painting? Ed Fingerman owns this one. So you have, here's one and here's the other one. They're next to each other. And it was Grant Wood's American Gothic.
Yeah.
So the bald head and the homely woman,
Yeah.
And it's hard. Though. It's hard making a homelier pen than the Fifth Avenue.
The Fifth Avenue. Yeah. That pen is friggin' ugly.
It's fugly. Fugly with
yes.
an F.
Yes.
And the least fugly one is the short one because it's smaller. The big one, the long one is the fugliest because the cap is just, it's way out of proportion. And then the middle one is still out of proportion because the cap is so tiny. And the small one looks almost like it's acceptable.
Yeah.
I
think all three sizes though in gray, but I keep encountering $64 million question versions, and I'm not paying for the price of the solid gold caps.
The $64,000. Yeah.
$64,000. Yeah.
They also had Skylines with that. I think they sold Skyline 64.
Yeah.
So that's another Skyline we need in our collection.
There we go. And I wonder, well, if they put it on one, did they put that $64,000 question cap on all color variations, or was it just on the black?
Oh, I think
they just probably, on the master version.
They probably put it on the pen that the color they had more barrels of. We can't sell these fucking brown ones. I'll be right back.
Sure.
With one. Oh, Tina, I can't help you. You have to. I suppose, Tina, move. I suppose I have to keep these the way they are. Unless I better keep these the way they are. So here's the Fifth Avenue set in solid gold without the 64.
Oh, yeah.
But it has, I was describing to friends of mine I was in Japan with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and I was describing my pen collection and how the guy was, I went to the Japan with is plays the oboe in the orchestra, and he said, if you want to come with me, I get a per diem, and the hotel would be free if you want to join me. So I did, and I was describing, and this guy's a pen collector, and I was describing how I met him and how the pens I collect, and I say I love pens that have weird names, and there's the ugliest pen in the world has the ugliest name on it. And I said what the name is. This one says Gladys Schnimpf. Schnimpf. Schnimpf.
Oh man, talk about being.
And 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 everyone got quiet because the cellist in the Philadelphia Orchestra was named Stumpf.
Stumpf is close enough to Stumpf. Yeah.
Yes. So
I guess the only thing Gladys would be named Gudrun,
Gudrun, yeah. Well, see, Gladys is one of those. My aunt's name was Gladys, so I don't dislike the name Gladys as much as I might if I didn't know someone or wasn't related to. But Gudrun would be Schnimpf. SCHNISH. Is it? Yeah, Schnimpf.
Schnimpf.
SCH.
Yeah.
Schimpf. Maybe it's Schimpf, not Schnimpf. Where's my loop? It's been so long since I. Okay, so write this down. How come I can't see it at all? Oh, there, Gladys M. Schnimpf. We don't want to confuse Gladys Schnimpf with another Gladys Schnimpf. There might
Gladys Schnimpf. Yeah.
Gladys M. Schnimpf.
There might be a dozen of them out there. Yeah.
SCH Schmimpf. SCHMIPH. Schmimpf.
Oh,
that's even worse. That's harder to say.
That's worse.
Schmimpf.
Yeah. Schmimpf.
My roommate in college was named Schmaltz, SCHMALZ, which is
Mr. Fat. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Mr. Schlag, Mr.
Dripping. Yeah, yeah,
dripping.
That's what schmaltz is, dripping or fat. Yeah, yeah.
But actually, this nib, you almost like it. If you closed your eyes and this pen were handed to you and you wrote with it, you'd be very happy with how it looked.
Well, once again, it's got this. It's just like Waterman's later pens. It can't help it. It's got that DNA in it.
Yep.
So it carries on even with. Well, it's like the later ones, even though they have that shit-tastic plastic that falls apart. Yeah. That you can't help. I mean, it either warps, it melts, it. I mean, whatever.
This era.
Well, that era, it still survives. They get worse from there. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, there were two.
You get some that look like a banana that's twisted sideways, and but the nibs are still.
The nibs are still good. Yeah, there were two Skylines that broke on the way home. One was a burgundy cap where this part broke off, and the other one was a black plastic one where the bottom of the point of the barrel broke off, and that's strange. The brown and the gray are quite fragile, but the other colors seem a little bit sturdier.
I've broke trying to fix them. They look great. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm even careful. I put dry heat to them, knowing that they can break, and they'll be fine. What'll happen is I'll set them aside while I'm waiting to do something. The plastic will shrink back to its original size, even though I heat them before I put the two things together after resacking it. And what do I hear? Crack.
Correct.
Or the first time you use the damn lever, you'll hear
Yeah.
crack, and ass end falls off of it. I'm like, son of a bitch. Yeah, gray and brown, glorious for. You almost with those. You almost have not that I'm the type, everything
have to leave
I
them,
have.
leave them there.
You almost have to leave them alone. Yeah. But I'm not that type. I'll use them, and if they crack, I'll put Scotch tape around them, and then buy another one, and then buy another one, and then buy. I haven't a lesson, I guess. Oh, yeah.
My power is waning here, so I should probably say goodbye. But I'll do my best at taking my advice of trying to downsize and see if I can just pick.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm in a position. Who the hell am I going to leave this stuff to anyway? You know what I mean?
You can leave it to me. Make a new will. Show my name on it, and I'll come and visit you. And I'll help
bring
you
a
bathe.
Basket.
I'll help you bathe. And Pierre, what are you doing with that radio in the bathtub? Plugged in.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch soon. We'll figure out, some character.
Here, this coffee tastes funny. Well, just drink it anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, just some arsenic. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good for your indigestion. Yeah.
See you later. Bye bye.